Listen, it is so rare that a brand in a moment like this comes forward and says, let's talk about all the comments. We have to go straight to the most asked question around pricing. Why did you do the Blancpain Swatch collaboration? People feel that we're shooting at a target and we're 42 and we're 38 and we're missing this bullseye of a Goldilocks size of 40 millimeters. What's the story? Why? Ladies and gentlemen, one of the sleeper brands in the luxury world is on the move. Blancpain has had a huge month, and I'm standing here with the VP of Marketing, Mr. Alexios Kitsopoulos. How are you, sir?
Very good, thank you.
This is
for hosting us.
My pleasure. Lights, camera, action down one end of the studio while we prepare for the biggest event we've ever had in the London Watch Discovery Studio. Tonight we're having over 100 people in the space. We're converting the Discovery Studio into Blancpain land.
So we have two things. One is the 38mm 50 Fathom release, and which we have here. And the second thing is that we complete the 50 Fathom collection with this release, at least for the moment.
Yes. But here's where you come in. You're likely not going to be walking through those doors tonight, but I wanted to invite you in, and Alexios has been kind enough to not only invite you, but speak to you directly. We have the video of the 38mm Blancpain 50 Fathoms live on my laptop with comments appearing below it as we speak. And we're going to speak directly to those because, like I said in the beginning, Blancpain is one of those sleeping giants. It's a brand with centuries of heritage, so many stories to tell, but is often not in the news and often not on the tip of everyone's tongues like it is today. So we thought we'd take the opportunity to share the 38mm pieces with you, to give you a little bit of the excitement that we're feeling in here, but also to answer your questions live, directly, and I have to say, unflinchingly, because as we went through a bit of a look at the comments, there are some themes that are emerging that we are going deeply into. Alexios?
But lots of comments, and this is very...
So many.
We're happy with that. We're
And
very
this,
pleased to see that.
I'm watching our analytics as we speak. This has been a very big video in terms of the views and in terms of the response. So there's no question that a brand that perhaps has been criticized for not being in the news enough is very much in the news today. So Alexios, the 38mm Blancpain, the story began in 1953. There's a long story that's laid out on these watches in front of us. But what does this watch represent for Blancpain? It's a watch that people have wanted size-wise. But in your words, what does this bring to the collection and why is it coming late? When I have to say, in my 10 years in watches, this has been a watch people have wanted for at least those 10 years.
Well, I arrived at Blancpain in 2011, and we had at the time the 45mm, only the 45.
Yep.
There was no bathyscaphe, modern bathyscaphe yet. So the modern 50 Fathoms, this is the bathyscaphe.
This is the bathyscaphe. You know and love this. This is my favorite version of the 50 Fathoms. Yep.
Which came out in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
In 2011, when I arrived, we had the 45mm 50 that was there for 4 years.
Yep.
Only 4 years. Because when Mark Hayek arrived in the company and took over the company in 2002, he found out the story of the vintage 50 Fathoms, which we have here. Perhaps we can show them afterwards. Mm-hmm. And, he's a diver. He's really passionate about it. He's an underwater photographer. And he said, I have to bring this watch back to life and to the 21st century with the materials and the know-how we have today in watchmaking.
Yes.
And he tried 2003 with a small series, a limited edition, 50th anniversary. And then, with the success of it, wanted to have a movement, a special movement for the 50 Fathoms. It took 4 years to develop. The watch came out, the 45mm, in 2007. Mm-hmm. So when I arrived, this was the 50 Fathom collection.
Yeah. And it's worth saying, like, this is, even the name 50 Fathoms, it sounds iconic. It sounds like it's been around in continuous production since 1953. That is absolutely not the case. This watch had a 20-year hiatus from
2030, yeah.
20-30-year hiatus from the 80s to this moment that Mark Hayek brought the watch back in the early 2000s. So you've got to keep in mind that there has been in this, what is it? Is that 72-year history of the 50?
72 years. Yeah.
I'm actually not very good at maths usually, but for nearly a third of that, I would say, there has been a period of this watch genuinely disappearing.
That was the quartz crisis, and
Yes.
Blancpain concentrated in complicated watches, and this is one of our pillars, classic watches with complications
Yep.
from that period. But the 50 Fathoms was not the accent at the time.
No.
It came back.
Interestingly, Jean-Claude Biver gets a lot of credit for being an agent of change, an absolute game-changing force in the industry. When he purchased Blancpain, there was no 50 Fathoms in the collection at that time, or he did not.
During
This was-
his time, yeah.
During his time, when he purchased the brand back, this was not a focus. So it is a relatively modern story. 22 years that the 50 Fathoms has returned from its vintage iterations. And in that time, they have largely been larger models, as you said, 45, and then now we land on 38.
And to answer the question you had before, the 38 millimeter now broadens a little bit the audience. In the minds of people, it's a man's watch, a large man's watch, a tool watch for diving, hardcore diving. And very often, women don't think women divers or women that want a sports watch don't have it on a tray in front of them. So we also wanted to make the point with this 38 millimeter release that, it's a watch, the 50 Fathoms, for men, for women, for everyone. And of course, the 42 is also for everyone. It's not only the 38, but we needed to put that on the minds of people.
We're missing a watch on the tray. This is a very live video. This is Marie Ansel. Thank you very much. This is another 38 millimeter version that you might have seen.
Yeah, you have yin and yang with two mother of pearl watches.
Yes, indeed. I call this one the Flirty Fathoms. That came to me this afternoon.
Very nice.
So, look, we have had a modern story being told here. And in your time, I'd like to know, from 2011, what percentage of sales was the 50 Fathoms compared to now?
Of course, I told you there were so few references without the Bathyscaphe line yet. And today we are at approximately 1/3, which is 50 Fathoms and diving watches, 1/3 classic, Villeray and complicated watches, and then we have 1/3 with the ladybirds and the ladies' timepieces.
I see.
At the time when I arrived, it was a very large majority complicated watches, very classic watches that we have, and big tradition with our moon phases and everything at Blancpain. But the 50 Fathoms was around 5% globally.
Yeah. So looking through the comments, we have to go straight to the most asked question around pricing. The price of the watch on bracelet is $19,000-ish US,
Yep.
and on strap, it's $14,000-ish,
Yeah,
ballpark.
approximately.
What is your response to the questions about the nature of this pricing?
Yeah, we are seeing all these reactions and very strong reactions by many people online, and I think it's good to ask the questions. Now, I believe there is some kind of confusion. I mean, it depends what you compare. How you say it in English? Compare apples with apples.
Exactly.
And,
That is the right phrase.
So again, when you take a 50 Fathoms automatique, because we could do the same exercise with finishing of the Bathyscaphe and the way it's done. When you look at it, you have curved surfaces that have been polished or brushed. You have flat surfaces. You have very, very sharp edges there. This is not something you do, just a machine going by. And it takes time, it takes skill, it takes tools, it takes, development to do it. Then you have a movement, which is an horlogerie movement inside with amazing finishings. You have a 100-hour power reserve. You have, the whole technical aspect of the watch and the finishings and everything, I think, allow for a comparison with brands such as Vacheron, as Patek. We're at that level. I don't see people complaining for those prices. I had a look before coming here. I knew this was coming up on their websites to look at prices, and I think we are a bit low finally. I mean, I was looking at power reserves of 35 to 45 hours. We're at 100 hours. In the 42 millimeter, we have the 13-15 movements, 120 hours power reserve, and extremely accurate and precise movement. I think it's proven as an extremely robust movement.
This is the one that is compared to the atomic clock in terms of its precision as a
Exactly.
mechanical movement.
Exactly, absolutely. And we have crazy results with that. We're very, very surprised ourselves to see those results. Now in the new watch, in the 38 millimeter, we have the 1150 movement, This is a movement that exists for many, many years. We have it in the 38 millimeter bathyscaphe too. But this movement has been continuously improved. It's extremely solid. It has, proven quality, and the finishings we have in this watch are amazing. I don't see why all this fuss. What are we compared with?
When we talked about this before the video started, and I said, you compare yourselves to Trinity brands, what the rest of the world would call the Holy Trinity in terms of Vacheron, Patek, and AP. And you said that the fact that we're not counted into this group is a problem of marketing, not a problem of quality. What do you mean by that?
Well,
because you're VP of marketing.
I'm VP at marketing, so I know this is a challenge I mainly have. It's my job now to try and fix it. Mm-hmm. But the reality is that in our brand, at least, and since I'm there, I'm seeing it firsthand, the investment we do is going into our facilities, into our personnel. We have 700 watchmakers and artisans in the Vallée de Joux. It's, there is a tremendous investment there also in research and development, in new materials, new movements, not only for the 50 Fathoms. 50 Fathoms is 1/3, as we said, of what we do.
Yeah.
So the investment goes there. Other brands are doing a lot of marketing, much more, so a lot of money goes there. And of course, you see them more. You hear about them more. They do many more events like we do here.
Yeah.
So it's something different. Now, the quality we have, the work we are doing, the integrity we have in the products, and this is imposed by Mark Hayek, so you cannot escape of that. This watch, if I take the example, I've been following its development since 4 or 5 years now in the look it will have. You would say, well, they took a 50 Fathoms 45 and they shrinked it. Mm-hmm. Well, this is not the case. He was saying, I want it to look like a lollipop. Yeah. And he insisted on that. And I've seen so many prototypes. Yeah. And, he has insisted in the detail, until the smallest detail. All this takes a tremendous amount of investment also. So, but the integrity of the product is there because he wants to reach what, at least in his perception, is perfect.
Yeah. I get a feeling from Alexios and from Blancpain themselves that this authenticity or this integrity of being, because you describe yourself as a non-essential resource, I think before you were saying
indirect
that anyone that's
cost.
Not a watchmaker.
I mean, indirect cost.
Marketing is an indirect cost at Blancpain. Mm-hmm. The part that I agree with is comparing a 50 Fathoms to a Submariner is actually comparing two different product types in a way. A Submariner is an example of an industrialized product to a standard that is beyond perfection. And it deserves its desirability for going to the nth degree with a watch and then going further. And I feel that every Rolex I've owned has over-delivered on the experience of that watch for me. So I understand that a Submariner is an exemplary dive watch. However, it is simply not the same, as you say, you feel more comfortable in a cohort with hand finishing, with exposed movements. Rolex have started to expose their movements through clear case backs, but I think the apples to apples point is important. And I feel that is something that, looking down the comments, there's a lot of comparisons of a 50 Fathoms to a Submariner. They're entirely different production processes. They're touched by different numbers of human hands, one by very few, one by very many. So again, it's the apples to apples point is a really good one. I mentioned authenticity before because Blancpain is unusual in that its two 50 Fathoms related CEOs have both been very avid divers. Fichte, the original CEO from the mid-century in 1953 when this watch was released, he was the one that drew the press-down bezel lock and then created this patent for a immovable bezel. And then you have Mark Hayek in 2003, both dive watch fanatics. And there's lots of divers in the business. And tonight we have yet another diver, amazing photographer, Laurent Balester here as well. So this is an important point. And I feel that is well made around apples to apples. Now, let's talk movements though, because movements, while I think the 1315 is renowned as an incredibly precise movement, the 1150 in this watch does have non-hacking seconds, which some don't like, and it's a 3 Hertz movement. What is your answer to when I said that this movement could be a higher, better quality? You believe, what do you say to people that have those criticisms about this movement?
I understand some people might react, why 3 hertz, having more hertz is better. But in terms of quality, this is what I reacted also before when we discussed, the quality we have in this movement is the same quality we have in the 1315. Of course, you have differences. It's a smaller movement because we needed to fit it in the 38 millimeter case. And it's the same we have in the 40 millimeter limited editions. I think it's one of your questions coming up.
Yeah.
But the movement is around since 40 years almost, continuously improved. And if there was an issue with this movement, we would know it.
Good answer. And look, 3 hertz contributes to that long power reserve as well. So you don't necessarily get everything. If you want a high beat movement,
you cannot get everything.
You're going to have a different power reserve. Dancing. Do you like to dance?
Not really.
Should we dance? No. I was going to say, one of the comments is, why dance around
You scared me for a moment.
a 40 millimeter version? People feel that we're shooting at a target and we're 42 and we're 38 and we're missing this bullseye of a Goldilocks size of 40 millimeters. What's the story? Why?
I don't think there is a specific reason for it. The 2003 limited edition was a 40 millimeter watch. And this was the test and try, bring back the 50 fathoms. Let's do a small limited series and see if the market is there after this era from the 80s that the 50 was not there. So it stayed as 40 millimeter is a limited edition. I'm not in technical stuff and everything, but I've been looking at the comments since years now with the millimeters. And people are fighting. Now I see all the comments, why not 40? But I see, well, 38 is too small, it should have been 39. Some people ask for 41. There is so much debate around something which is, for me, cannot be, a general rule for watches. If you take the 50 fathoms with the short lugs, with a smaller opening of the dial, since we have a large bezel.
You were going to make me try this on before. You were asking me to try on the 42.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
Because you told me before 40 is a good number.
I feel that, I think that
right
40 is renowned as a Goldilocks number. But then again, I do agree that suddenly, like I have a Vacheron Constantin 222 at 37, and I think it wears bigger than the 38 millimeter 50 fathoms. So it is truly, the diameter does not speak to the way a watch wears. It's the lug to lug that makes the difference. And obviously the 222 being an integrated steel sports watch bracelet has a little more flare on the first lug, which means it doesn't wear to its true case size. There's 42, and there's some significant lugs on that. I'd say what is that? Is this over 50 millimeters lug to lug? We can measure that. But yeah, that's a 42 on me. So your point is that it's not about the diameter, it's about the lug to lug, really.
No, my point is that you have to wear the watch on your wrist. And when we came out last year with a 42 millimeter line, we wanted people to come in the boutiques and try it on. And we had people who came in the boutiques and they tried on the 42 and they bought the 45. But before we had the 42, they did not come in the boutique.
Interesting.
Because, it's 45, it's too big, I'm not coming in. Then they came in, they tried the 42 and they bought the 45 because they tried it on the wrist. And I think many people in the comments, just come in.
Commenters come in.
And then we discuss it.
Look, this is just my ignoramus outside view, but it seems to me you actually have a little bit of a conundrum and an issue with movements for a 40 millimeter watch. Because as you said, you can put the 1150 in a 40 millimeter watch with a spacer.
Some spacer.
Some spacer, but you can't get the 1315 smaller than a 42.
No.
Because it is right to the edge. If we look at yours, you'll see that on the case back, it is to the extreme edge. So to people that are wanting a 40 millimeter watch, the truth, as I see it, is also that Blancpain would have to do a ton of R&D to modify a movement or create a new movement for a 40 millimeter watch.
Yeah, if we want to keep the same integrity as we have here with the 42 millimeter, 42.3 millimeter, it was the smallest possible
to the millimeter
size to keep the 1315 movement inside. So yes, and with the 38.2 we have the same situation, but with the 1150 movement inside.
Now I'm going to go really hard on you, Alexios. This is the mother of pearl 38 millimeter.
really good on you.
Thank you very much. I think it kind of works with the bone and the white and the off-white and the baby blue. My question here is, why did you do the Blancpain Swatch collaboration?
Okay.
Number one. And then I'll have number two as soon as you answered that.
Well, we were not the first to do the collaboration. They did the collaboration with Omega and the Moon Swatch. And then we had the 70th anniversary of the 50 Fathoms in 2023.
Yeah.
And Swatch came and said, you know, we loved what we did with Omega, and you have this very significant anniversary, and we'd love to do something. And for us, as we said before, we are not loud enough at Blancpain, and we are not known to be fun. And we said, it's an opportunity to show that Blancpain can be fun in our product, to open up also, to give the opportunity for people to have a 50 Fathoms with the history of the 50 Fathoms on their wrists. And we thought it's fun, it's nice, it's colorful, and we loved it. And we still love it.
Okay. Do you consider that it's been successful?
From my perspective, for Blancpain, I think it's successful. I know there are criticism and people saying, "Oh, this is a catastrophe," and now, "Oh, I don't, value Blancpain as much because there is a Swatch 50 Fathoms." Okay, it's their point. I understand, but from my perspective, it's very successful, and we have so many people that, learned about Blancpain, about our existence, learned about the watch, learned about the ocean commitment. And we have Laurent Baleste afterwards who will show what we do in the oceans. And I think this is great. And the nudie branch idea on the watches, it's playful, it's fun. I had the privilege to be in the team at Blancpain who knew about the collaboration. It was very secret before it came out. And I think it's excellent.
There's your answer. Now, are you surprised that I was one of the people that saw this watch appear and thought it was a Swatch? Did you anticipate that the first renders of this would genuinely fool people into thinking this was another Swatch collaboration?
Even though you don't hear so much about us, we don't live in an aquarium.
I'm just asking, man. Are you surprised that I was confused? Because I should not be confused. I live inside this bubble. And when I saw it, I just didn't give it a second's thought. I'm like, oh, cool. That's a nice new Swatch.
No, I'm not really surprised that the first reaction of people is, oh, this can't be a Blancpain, because we are not, known to come out with products that are disruptive like that. But we expected to have this, this is a Swatch, this is a Blancpain, what are they doing? Yes. But I think it made this point, I think I mentioned that before, that we wanted to open up to an audience also and put in the minds of people that 50 Fathom can be on the wrists of men, of women, of anyone. And we needed to make our point. And to tell you the truth, the comments we perceive, of course, there is this criticism and ambiguity, but I think the reaction was extremely positive in total.
Well, I have to say that that's a comment that is almost without prejudice or without a value, because I initially, visually, was thinking this is part of that design language of the Swatch. But now that I have it, I have to say it's actually really lovely. It is.
We converted you.
Alexios, I feel like I've gotten in touch with a different side of the brand through you today. And I hope you have too, because it is so rare. Let me say this. Listen, it is so rare that a brand in a moment like this comes forward and says, yeah, let's talk. Let's talk about all the comments and let's explain a little more of our world. Because like I said earlier, the reading and reminding myself that the 50 Fathom story is only really 20.
The modern 50 Fathom.
The modern 50 Fathom story is very fresh, despite this real provenance. It's a big reminder that we do live in a very small bubble where these things can compress the longer timeline that they exist on. And this watch lives on a timeline right back to the very birth of the dive watch and right now to its most cutting edge evolution. Thanks for watching. Did we miss any of your comments? I have been literally watching the comments arrive on the post as we've been talking. If there's something that we missed, please comment below. Alexios may even get in there and answer. So
I think we are thirsty.
We're thirsty. Our job is done. Now we just have to entertain the people. Thanks for watching Time and Tide, and thank you again, Alexios, and thank you, Blancpain.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Cool. See you on the next one.